And we are recording. They can't hear you yet, though. Good.
Wednesday, vacation coming up here, or at least some time off for our American friends. And I wish the best for all our American friends and their family over that holiday season for them. I just quickly want to get started with Tier 2, Sean, but what are your impressions so far of just a quick snapshot of what you see coming up here this week?
It's gonna be an interesting matchup. Honestly, the way we're gonna look at it, we're gonna talk about tier two, tier one. OG LOC. It's intense. I mean, there's a lot of 7-4, 6-5 teams. Um, I mean, there's even a couple 5-6 teams. Can they sneak in? It's going to be a very interesting next 2 weeks, honestly.
Yeah, no, I love it. So yeah, I'll just quickly let everybody know what's going on Tier 2 for our Tier 2 owners. So in the Canadian Conference, there's going to be 4 playoff teams. It's really down to 6 teams. Myself, Matt and Bill's Mafia, you guys know him from Dynasty. Mike and Cashin My Belichick's a new owner this year. I liked what he's brought to the table. He's got an outside chance to get in. My nephew, Kalen, Justin, Aldemus Prime from Dynasty. Then my brother, Aaron, my oldest brother, Aaron, is actually in the hunt there. Then in the American International Conference, it's really down to really 6 teams. Chris and No More looks like he's already made it through from Dynasty. Finn and SF Fourth and Niners. He's Eric's brother, I believe. He's finally looking like he's going to get through. And then it's down to Vladimir, Dusan's brother. And then Ramiro, who I believe is Brandon's brother. Mark, who's Brandon's friend. And then Stuart from Dynasty. So a lot of familiar names. One of those lucky owners is going to get to play in the LFC next year. So it's going to be competitive. And we'll update them quickly in Flex 13 next week as well.
Cool. I mean, before we go anywhere else, I do have to say, fuck the Devils. I mean, you have all this Devil shit on. I have to call it out. I mean, as a Flyers fan, I just can't support this. This is why everybody wants. This is why everybody wants to beat you every week.
Oh man, I'm representing the red and white.
All right, fine. The Canadian jersey's fine, but you got that Stanley Cup championship banner behind you.
I think that was the year when Stevens knocked out Lindros. It was great.
Nah, it was a little later, about 2 or 3 years. It was, I say, 95. So yeah, it's probably about 97, 98, 99 maybe.
2000 it would have been maybe.
Yeah. Anyway, let's stop with that. Let's jump right into it. I know you like to talk about Ellie Island, but I actually got a bold prediction for her. So I think we should start with your game against the horrible Templars that they are right now. So we have Templars versus you, obviously. I mean, we all know who's going to win this game. It's not Templars. I mean, just looking through his team, I don't even know who he's going to keep next year. Maybe CD Lamb and Gallup. Besides that, is he going to keep IDPs? Um, he's going to have to start. I know he made a couple trade for picks. He needs to trade those picks away for players, or he's going to be in the same boat as next year.
Yeah, no, Robert's a bit of a joke this year, no doubt about it, but it's been a quarterback graveyard for him. Like, let's not forget he had Dak, boom, he goes down, and I know that's his team's quarterback. And then Joe Burrow now, like, could have been the future for Templars. How's that knee? Let's face it. I mean, you're not going to be the same, guy from that. I mean, I know guys recover, but it's like major surgery we're talking about on that knee. So, I think it's going to be a tough road for Templars. And I mean, for me, I have had an easy schedule to cruise out here, and it's been great. But I'm also kind of concerned because I haven't played a good team in a while. And it'll be interesting to see how that goes. But one thing I will say about my team is, there's only 4 teams that are part of the 2,500 point club, and there's only 2 teams that are part of the 27 point club, and that's Joshua and Adrian. So points for is up there, but yeah, this is gonna be a joke. I picked myself to win it.
Yeah, and this would be your fifth win against Templars. He did beat you twice, but this must have been down years for you. Next up, we got the Architect and the Ellie Island. I know Ellie Island isn't American, but I think we should call this the Turkey Bowl. I mean, they're both pretty bad. Even the next game, is pretty bad, but they're both Canadian, so we call that Boxing Day game. This one, I actually think Ellie Island's going to take the W against Architect. The reason I think that, I mean, I know her team. Her team's not that good, but in the last 4 weeks, her average is 163 versus the Architect at 157. So I mean that alone, is should be worrying for the Architect. I mean, he's projected to lose by 50 points by NFL. I mean, the good thing for Architect, he's been averaging about 40 points more than his prediction every week. But yeah, I mean, I actually think Eliana's going to win this. Even with Carson Wentz, probably throwing 4 picks against Seattle.
Yeah, you know what? I think you're right. It's funny. Brandon can't even win or do anything right this year. I know he's trying to not get in that consolation bracket. Because I mean, really, let's face it, that pick belongs to Suze. But it's just the big time potential players that Ellie Island has. She has the best wide receiver in fantasy this year in Devontae Adams.
Yeah.
I mean, right there, you get some huge points. And I think you're right. Wentz versus Seattle will do well. One thing I will say about the Architect, he was smart to. I don't know if he had him before on the team, but P. Ryan, he literally could be the starting tailback for Cincinnati this week. So, yeah, I mean, Brandon has made some good moves, but yeah, his season's been a joke. If you're the Ellie Island, you're officially a joke.
Well, actually, the good thing I have to say about the Architect is him picking up Salvan Ahmed. I mean, is that a potential keeper for next year?
Well, this goes to show you how much of a laugher he's been this year.
That's very true. So let's leave him alone for a little bit since he's American, probably eating some turkey tomorrow. Let's move on to 2 Canadian teams. We have as I clicked on all those random things, we have the Canadian guy versus True North. I'll let you start on that one. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think I see a couple teams here where Norman Canadian guy, I think, let emotion get in the way of some of his transactions this year. And I see on Chris's side, I know Chris is a heck of an owner in the league. He's proven that. And I just think he's had bad luck with injuries. And, like I say, it all started in the draft. But, he still has Rogers there. C-Mac is still there. Whereas Canadian guy still has Mahomes to build from. He did a smart waiver ad with Kiki Kuti with Randall Cobb, your guy now out.
Yep.
So he has made some decent moves there, but in this one, I got to give it to Canadian guy just because he deserves a win. His career record win percentage is the worst for any LOC owner in history. And hopefully he can make a step forward to change that this week versus Chris. And sorry, Chris, it looks like loss number 10 for you this year.
I'm gonna agree with you. The one thing I actually found fascinating, this is actually their first matchup against each other. So whoever wins this will be 1-0. I mean, they have the bragging rights for this matchup going forward.
Farm doesn't have too many of those either, so.
Yeah. So yeah, hopefully he can pull that one out. So next up, we're going to talk about Green Lightning and Billsy Bob. In this one, I mean, Lucas, he's in 12th now. I mean, he was so good in the beginning. Now he's just literally falling from grace at this point. And honestly, I just think he's going to keep falling just because I believe karma's going against him. He was doing so good and everything's going bad for him. I'm going to say Billsy Bob finds a way to win. I don't even care who's on Billsy Bob's team, honestly.
I think, you never want to make those self-prophecies at the beginning of the year. And remember, Lucas at the beginning of the year said, I'm going to win in both formats. And he might make the playoffs in both formats. So he's lost 4 in a row here. I think he is going to start getting healthy, though. Herbert against Allen, I think that could be a shootout. Herbert's been in shootouts pretty much since he's been in the league. And I just don't think Bill Z Bobs has the answers unless Kamara puts up, 50, which he could. But Bill Z Bobs really shit the bed for, not only Lucas, but Krista last week when he didn't dress Carlos Hyde, because he would have beat Milan. And it would have been a four-way tie even for himself at 6-5. So he screwed himself too. And just for that reason, I'm picking Lucas to win, because you can't shit the bed like that in the LOC and win. And that's why he's got the second worst win percentage in the LOC.
So to go on top of that, though, for my Bilzy Bob prediction, Bilzy Bob's 4 week average, the last 4 weeks for Bilzy Bob, actually has about 2.57 more points than Green Lightning has in the same 4 weeks. So I'm still going to stick with Bilzy Bob and see if he can pull it out there. Oh, and Green Lightning is 4-1 against Bilzy Bob lifetime, just so you know.
Dominated him.
Yep. So next up, we have the Six and Fighting Geese. And we all should know my predictions for Fighting Geese by this point. The Six is going to win. It's going to be actually closer than I think people think. But unless Tyson Hill runs for another 2 touchdowns, I just don't think her team's that good. Her running backs are mediocre at best. Her wide receivers are okay. Fine, we'll give her good wide receivers. Her tight ends are okay. But then if you compare her flex, her wide receivers, running back, tight ends versus the Six, I believe the Six are just better in general. Fitzgerald, he's getting up there. Kyle Murray, he's more running than throwing. And then, Mims might be the deal breaker for, might be the savior for the Six on this one.
Yeah, the difference maker here is just running backs. Sousa's running backs are just terrible. And, the person she traded away, Zeke, to the Architect, has landed on the Sixes team. And Zeke, since he's been in the LOC, I don't know how many teams he's been on. Nobody wants that guy. But I'm going to go out on a record here and say that Ezekiel is going to have a big day on Thanksgiving there. And that's going to be the difference. And the Six is going to win it because of Zeke. And eventually come full circle on Suze and, they could put the nail in the coffin, so to speak.
Yeah, I agree with you. And the winner of that game will actually take the lead in the overall record against each other. Right now they're 2-2, so whoever wins will become 3-2. So next up, we got BC Lions and Too Good for a Name, even though Too Good for a Name is a name. We all know who's going to win this one, obviously. BC Lions, come on. Nobody's going to pick you to win this one.
Yeah, BC Lions is a joke at this point. Looking at Luke, I'm sure Owie Shitty is thinking to himself, this sucks. I still, even if Doosan loses and I win, I'm still playing for the division next week. So no matter what, Luke, it's going to be do or die next week for you. I think that's the only matchup that really is solidified based on all the scenarios. You'll cruise and win this one easily, but really all that matters is next week for you, and we'll find out if you are true to your name, Always Shitty.
Very true, very true. You did praise him though earlier, so I guess he's always shitty half the time.
Once in a while, I'll have a weak moment.
Alrighty. So next up, let's talk about the 12th man and versus Swahino, who is actually their first matchup against each other. So there's no history here. The 12th man, though, in the last 4 weeks, is averaging about 11 points, a little over 11 points higher than Swahino. And then looking at the teams, in my opinion, they're pretty even. The running backs besides Pollard are pretty even. I actually like Jackson more than Rivers. I know you think the NFL is trying to steal it for Jackson this week. But, the wide receivers, they're okay for both teams. Patterson might be the downfall, but it might even out with Pollard. Tight ends, they're about the same. Even the flex, honestly. It's going to be a close matchup. I think it's really going to come down to, the defenses and IDPs in this matchup. And with that, I actually give the 12th man the advantage here, and I think the 12th man's going to take the W in this one.
Yeah, Brian's done well here late in the year, but as far as I'm concerned, he was too late in terms of making roster moves on his team, and he does have weaknesses there. Galladay hasn't been healthy all season long. Julio seems to not be able to stay healthy, but I think the big difference here, even though Rivers has a tough matchup against Tennessee, Lamar's got a tougher one against Pittsburgh defense, and I think we've all seen Lamar's regression this year. It's been terrible.
Yeah.
He just really seemed to, be the same thrower maybe, or maybe teams have just figured out, the gimmick plays. I don't know, but I think that'll be the difference, that they just have a tough matchup in Pittsburgh, and that's why I'm giving it to the 12th man.
No, that's a very, very valid points there. Next up is one of my actually favorite matchups. I think it's gonna be a really good one. It is the Age Crew versus Storm, and I'll let you start there before I drop some knowledge to you.
Yeah, I'm excited to see this one too. When I actually see all the scenarios play out, and even in the Flex 13, I'm looking forward. There could be literally like 6 teams that could be tied at 8-5, and this is one of those games that's going to alter a lot of those outcomes. And I think the big difference here, it looked like Thielen was going to be out for COVID. Now it looks like he might be back. I'm not too sure. But I think Adrian has a really strong roster, and I'm going to be perfectly honest with you. Me versus him for the division, I am concerned. He's got a strong roster, in my opinion. I think his weaknesses, though, are running backs with Le'Veon, etc. In this one, I am going to give it to Age Crew.
No, I agree with you there. So fun fact about the Age Crew: the last 2 weeks, he's averaged 271.92 points, versus Storm, who's averaged actually higher than a lot of other people at 240.47. So like, she's up there, she's scoring points, but unfortunately she's running into the Age Crew right here, and let's say by some miracle I beat Deuce Bombers twice. The one person I don't want to see in the first round of the playoffs is the Age Crew. You're 100%. I don't want to see him first round of the playoffs. It scares me.
I agree.
So, up next we have the Life's a Mitch versus Sabatica Spartans. And so, Life's a Mitch, he's averaging the last 4 weeks, he's averaging 246.3 points. However, if you take away his 300 plus point game from 4 weeks ago, he literally drops down by 28 points. So he's at 246 at 218 versus Spartans, who's at 229. I actually think Spartans finds a way to come into this game and takes it from him. I mean, if you look at Spartans, I mean, he's projected to lose by 40, but his team's overachieving week after week, honestly. You have Goff, you have Davis, and I don't know. I just think they keep overachieving. They take the W for him.
Yeah, I mean, Dusan, I know he would probably like to be tied with Luke when they play for the division. Again, this game's really of no importance to him because he's playing for the division next week anyway. Whereas for Joshua, it's obviously extremely important. And, if he loses this one, he's in big trouble. If he wins, he's in better shape. And I'm sure he's probably sick of playing the international division. I think it's been 3 weeks in a row. And, based on the mock Flex 13, it would be 4 weeks in a row against Swahino. But I am going to go with Joshua here. I just think, he doesn't have the bye issues anymore. And, catching Kelsey there, he always puts up big numbers. And I think Sabatica Spartans, it's going to be he does have a chance, but I just feel that Tennessee is going to come up big in Indianapolis. So is Ryan Tannehill, and I'm going to give it to Life's a Mitch.
They're all valid points. My prediction, like I said, my prediction is just because I think Spartans teams are going to keep overachieving. Anyway, let's move on to the game of the week, which I think, other people have said that they expect a super tight game. And with that, if this game was played last week, I would have won by 0.29 points against Bombers. That's how close that game would have been last week. I think it's just going to be just as close. But for me, it all comes down to my rookie running backs. Will they put up the number of points that they did last week? Or will be 2 weeks ago when they put up crap points, and that's honestly this all this matchup comes down to.
I think it's gonna game of the week for sure. Like so much depends on this game in terms of Flex 13. Almost everything does. It's crazy. And when I was looking at the matchup, you talked about your rookie running backs. I think looking at the other side for Deuce Bombers, what it comes down to is the decision between Eddie B, Kirk Cousins at quarterback, and Carolina is in Minnesota, and he has to make the decision. And right now, he's going with Teddy B. I don't know if that's the answer. Carolina looked like they responded fairly well with PJ Walker in there, the XFL MVP.
Yeah.
So who knows if that's the right decision? And I think that decision in his head and how it's going to work out, I just don't see it working out. And for me or for you, sorry. Randall Cobb obviously getting hurt there for depth is going to hurt your team. But I am going to go with you to win. Obviously you have some problems there and you have to fight, and championship teams, fight with depth and they fight through the injuries. But I pick you to win it and you'll get another shot against Deuce Bombers. Not sure if we'll make you guys game of the week twice in a row, but definitely game of the week this week.
Yeah, game of the week this week. The only thing reason it could be game of the week next week is because it would be for first place of the LOC. It is literally back. It could potentially be back-to-back matchups for the LOC winner and the American League and the American Division. It's what a week 12 game this is, honestly.
You got a huge argument there for sure. So are you going with yourself?
I voted in the poll for Deuce Bombers, but honestly, I like my team better. If my rookies can play as well as I think they can play, yeah, why not? I predicted myself to win last week, and I did. I'll go with it again.
Good on.
So, you wanna talk about you want to look at some projections or some stats for the LOC, or do you want to move on to Dynasty now?
We can talk quickly about maybe just the top scoring teams. Have a look at points for because that is a trophy or a money winning category, right? Most points.
Yep.
So I think that's important to look at here on a weekly basis at this point. And really, like I told you earlier, two teams in the 2,700 point club, and that's Joshua and Adrian, and then only two more in the 2,500 point club, and that's myself and Deuce Bombers. So. I think at this point, with only 2 weeks left, literally it's a two-horse race. It's Joshua, Adrian, and I don't know who I would predict to win it at this point. But I think this week will tell a lot. I can't make a prediction right now. It's too tight. 6 points. That's crazy.
I agree. 6 points. The age crew's putting up points. Joshua's team's coming off, buys. He has full roster this week. It might be won by 1 or 2 points. Honestly, I think would be the closest we ever had in the points for category.
Yeah, no, it's been great. And then the other thing we can look at is just the mock Flex 13 matchups right now, and why they would be the way they are, and it's based on the NFL.com projections right now for each team. So that's how we mocked this out. So Fulham Misfits is projected to beat Deuce Bombers right now. So obviously they would meet again next week. The Green Lightning beat the Six earlier this year. So if they both win this week, which they're projected to do so, they'll play each other for the division. 12th Man and Storm would end up playing each other just because I feel, looks like Brian might end up 7-5. Chris is 6-6 according to NFL.com. Both are kind of on life support. I don't really see either making the playoffs. Templars and True North just playing for Pride at this point. Not most likely will be the matchup next week. Suhino and Life's a Mitch, so this is based on Life's a Mitch's winning, so he better hope he wins that game this week. Again, this one's concrete. Subotica Spartans too good for a name. That one's guaranteed. So, Sean, you're saying, does Suze get that Flex 13 matchup to get her 60th win? I think she might here, but that's just the way it landed. So
Yeah. Likely story.
So 60th win might happen there, and then Architect and Canadian guy, again, two teams in the shitter. But that team, that game is meant whoever the winner makes the consolation playoffs, I believe. So that one actually will have some importance.
Yeah.
And then myself, Adrian versus Division, and then Billsy Bubs gets the easy one, the last game against LA Island, and I'm just giving that to him because I have sympathy for him and his winning percentage.
Which he might still lose. He's projected to lose already by NFL, so he might even lose that.
Yeah, well then you know what that means.
All right, let's move on to Dynasty. First game we're going to talk about. Let's just get it out of the way. Let's talk about the Illuminati and the wonderful Adamus Prime here. I mean, they're both ranked 16 and 15, so let's just talk about it or not. Honestly, who wins? Who cares? That's what it comes down to. But I mean, if I had to pick one, I'm just gonna say the Illuminati is gonna go 0 and 12, just because he's actually putting up decent points. Honestly, he's if you take out the game where he scored like 120 points, he's averaging like 208, but the Prime's averaging 224. I mean, he's gonna win.
Yeah, you know what? You predicted Robert to get his first win last week. I'm predicting Robert to get his first win this week. And here's why, again, for the same reasons in the LOC. Zeke's going to have a big day on Thanksgiving. I have this feeling. I know Washington's got a good front line there. Just have this feeling. He's going to have a big game, and the fans are going to go home happy in Dallas. But it's going to be interesting. I've been insulting Robert all year, so this time Robert, you're awesome. You've always been a brother in the LOC, so I'm hoping you get your first win here. And Aldemus Prime, what a fall from grace from last year.
Mm-hmm.
He was great last year. This year, so.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, you did predict him to win in the LOC last week, and we both got murdered by our predictions for Robert to win. Hopefully, he doesn't disappoint this week. Next up, let's talk about another who cares game. It's Flaming Dragons versus Life's a Mitch. I mean, we're talking about Joshua doing great in the LOC, but in Dynasty, I mean, he's 3 and 8.
Yeah, it's down. It's the running back room. I mean, look, Mike Davis, Brian Hill, and Mike Boone. It's Mike Boone, right? That's who you're throwing out there every week. Like, are you kidding? You're never gonna win with that starting trio. I mean, I know you got some good wide receivers, but your quarterback room is bad too. Joshua, it's going to take a strong commit. I think it's going to take strong commitment to get this team looking half decent. Then looking at Flaming Dragons, he has some guy named Chesina in his lineup. I don't even know who that is, and I like to think that everybody. So yes, you're right. Both teams are awful. But you know what? I'm going to give it to Lucas just because it looks like Eckler might return. I think that'll be a big boost to his lineup, and maybe it'll get that locker room in his team fired up for a win.
Yeah, I mean, it really, to me, it comes down to, and I don't know the answer to this, is Swift going to play for Detroit? If Swift plays for Detroit and Eckler comes back, oh yeah, Flaming Dragon gets the W here. Next up, it's another game that's kind of like, who cares, except for Unnecessary Roughness. It's Philly Miracle Men versus Unnecessary Roughness. And the funny thing is, the Philly Miracle Men in the last 4 weeks, they have averaged 249 points versus Unnecessary Roughness, who's averaging 192. That 249 is actually better than you, and I believe one or two other teams are in the top 8 in the last 4 weeks. I mean, they have the Philly Miracle Man. They have Herbert. I mean, he's put up 35 points last week. He's going to be in that shootout with Buffalo. For Unnecessary Roughness, will his running backs play? Will Mostert come back and play, or is he going to be out this week? I honestly think the wide receivers are more of a wash. Maybe Keenan Allen gives the Miracle Men the advantage here, but obviously the tight ends go to roughness here. But the flexes, I mean, the flexes for both team are mediocre, to say the least, except for Fulgham. But then Fulgham did horrible last week. He got, I think, one catch, two catches. So I still think Miracle Men win here. I think they actually have better IDPs than Roughness. And I think they somehow find another way to win a game here and ruin some hopes and dreams.
Right on. Well, yeah, I mean, Milan's started the season winning six straight, lost five straight now. Does he make it six in a row? I mean, it didn't, add on the fact Randall Cobb goes down for him. But again, we talked about it last week. Dak getting hurt, and the reason why we need to add that one IR spot there at least for the quarterback. But I think he actually gets a strike of good fortune this time and actually ends his losing streak. As much as I think Herbert's going to put up big numbers again, I think Goff has the potential to put up big numbers against San Francisco because that front just ain't the same. Buckner's not there. Nick Bosa's not there. So who's applying the pressure? So yeah, we're gonna go with loss for Philly Miracle Man here.
All right, not a problem. Next up, we're going to talk about you and versus Sabatica Spartans here. I'll let you talk about yourself first.
Yeah, Savonica Spartan scares me a little bit. I mean, he's had some recent success. He shouldn't be taken lightly, in my opinion. Kamara is a big point player. He's the kind of guy that can swing games anytime. I do like my future, third overall pick. I went with CD Lamb in the draft. I think that reflecting, I think that was the right pick. Now I needed a wide receiver. Yeah. And the fact that I got Rob off waivers, thanks to Brandon and the architect to some degree, I just took a chance on him right away and it's paid off. So, I think because of those little moves I've made this year, I think I still win this one because, my running back room is healthy with Chubb back too. And he's going to get a lot of volume as he does every week. So I'm going to go with myself beating Sabatka Spartans and hopefully winning the Solomonic division. But we don't know yet. We got to find out what happens with likely losers.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think you're going to win. The only thing that should scare you is Spartans. They're averaging 283 in the last 4 weeks, which is number third which is third in for points for in those 4 weeks in the dynasty here, and you're below me. You're at 237, so you're averaging almost 50 points less. So I mean, Spartans is another team who's they're overachievers. He's a team of overachievers again, just a couple other teams we have. Next up, let's talk about the Vlad Jr. crew versus Curly Lamborghini. Going with them, honestly, they're the last 4 weeks between the two. It's only a 4-point difference. I mean, they're both putting points up. And unfortunately for Curly, he needs to find a way to win this week. He needs to win. He needs to keep pace to get into the playoffs. And he has Kyler Murray. I mean, Kyler Murray, he's going to run for 2 touchdowns, maybe throw for 1 against New England. But Russell Wilson, he's playing the Eagles. I mean, if you have watched any Eagles game this year, they suck. That defense is trash. And it really is going to come down to, the running back room. I mean, he has Pollard. And he has Breda. And Breda, I mean, he sucks. He sucks on Miami. But he does have Adams versus, he has the better wide receiver core, I think, for against Flat Crusader. So I'm actually going to go with Curly Lamborghini for the win.
Yeah, sometimes I wonder, like, these two teams, like, I think for Vlad Jr. crew, the success has really come from, big guys like Russell Wilson. Darren Waller, I think he's the second best tight end in fantasy. So, that's where I think the success is coming from. And for Spend, I never believed in him last year, and I think I gave him a pretty decent record prediction this year. I'm not going to believe in him here, though. I'm going to believe in Chris. I think he's going to overcome Some of the holes that he has. Obviously one of those holes was when Odell went down. That was a big hole to the wide receiver room. But I think he perseveres here versus Curly. I don't believe in Curly, but if Curly can win this thing, it makes things definitely really interesting for Flex 13.
I agree. Next up is let's talk about Orange Crush versus Likely Losers, who, in my opinion, is definitely losers. I mean, Orange Crush last 4 weeks, he's averaging 306 points. And I just assume his team's just going to keep putting up those points week in and week out until somebody gets injured. I mean, he's like me in LOC though. Ken Edwards, Hilaire put up decent points this week, versus Cook. I mean, I'm pretty sure that Deuce Bomber has Cook in LOC versus me, and then CEH is playing Cook again. So it's going to be a close match. I think it's going to be probably around 306 to maybe 290 for Orange Crush here, but I think Orange Crush takes the W here.
I think this one easily could have been the game of the week. It's going to be a thriller, I feel. And for me, obviously I'm hoping for Adrian, because if Adrian wins this game, I win the Solomonic. You got to think, if at least if I beat Dusan for sure, right? So I'm definitely rooting for Adrian here. And I think really, again, it's just going to come down to the success of Mahomes and Rodgers. But Rodgers is playing Chicago, Mahomes is playing Tampa Bay. That concerns me, and it actually concerns me to the point where I'm gonna go with likely losers here. I have this feeling he's gonna continue to make this thing competitive, and Adrian will fall here surprisingly. And this is my shocker pick of the week: likely losers beats Adrian.
Yeah, I mean that's a good prediction. The two other points I want to make is you're welcome for last week, and can Matt Ryan not get -6 points like he did last week? I mean, he didn't hurt me last week, but he definitely hurt likely losers, and that's why he lost last week. So next up, let's talk about No More and Bills Mafia. I mean, it's a very close projected game. In the last 4 weeks, No More has 246 in points versus Bills Mafia, who's 264. On paper, it looks like an easy game for Bills Mafia, but Bills Mafia in the last couple weeks, I actually didn't do the average for the last 2 weeks. His average is a lot lower than that 264. I think he's on par where No More is. I think it's gonna actually be a close game for the both of them. I mean, it really comes down to is how's that shootout go for Allen versus is Tyson Hill going to run for more touchdowns? So yeah, I mean it's going to be a close game. Who wins? I don't know. It's very close. No More has a better running back team. Wide receivers definitely go to Bills Mafia. The tight ends, in my opinion, Noah Fant, he's overrated. I think the tight ends are about equal. And then, so yeah, he has Stafford, where No More doesn't have, that another quarterback to play. So, but Stafford last week got 3 points. So, it's going to be close. It's a whole bunch of what ifs, and if I had to pick somebody, I'm going to go No More.
Yeah, for me, No More. He traded for C-Mac, got hurt. He drafted Joe Burrow at 4. We saw what happened to him last week. That's why he doesn't have that second quarterback. It's interesting, though, looking at No More's roster. It's funny how late in the year bums like Demir Bird come out of nowhere to put up huge points. Like, who the heck is Demir Bird? Well, you know him now, right?
Yep.
But, I just think the injury to Burrow really hurts. And No More right now, I think, is making some bad roster moves. I don't know. He's got Anthony Berkser in instead of Jordan Reed or Zach Ertz, who might be back this week at tight end. I'm not too sure about those roster moves, to be honest. So because of that, I think Bills Mafia is going to win here and solidify getting the division money and getting some money in his pocket pretty quickly.
Yeah, it's like I said, it was a tough choice. Yeah, it's still a tough choice, honestly. Let's move on to the next game, the game of the week. You got Powers of Pain versus Zebras. Um, I mean, everybody should know. I don't like Sousa's team in the LOC. I love Sousa's team in Dynasty. I mean, last 2 weeks, she's putting close to 300 points up. And I'm not even going to scroll down. I'm not even going to show you guys the players on her team. I just think she's going to keep rolling just because her team's overachievers. Again, there's a lot of overachieving teams in Dynasty, and her team's one of them. And I think the Super Bowl will be Zebras versus Orange Crush. That's my prediction.
Yeah, I mean, both these teams are, I think, two teams you don't want to face in the playoffs. Brian's had a really late surge here in the year. I think for Brian, looking at his season, looking back, let's not forget, remember he had Jimmy G as his only quarterback? He didn't drop Jimmy G, and Jimmy G came back and he was pitiful, and then he got hurt again.
Yeah.
Like he sacrificed like 2 games there with that decision to go and hang on to Jimmy G. And I think for Sue, she had an excellent draft. She added Jonathan Taylor with the number 2 pick. She got Antonio Gibson in the 3rd round. She also added Zach Moss in the 2nd round. So she added 3 unbelievable young running backs to add to the roster. And I think that's been the big change for Sue's and Zebras. And I think, it's going to come down to the rookie running backs, just like you said for yourself in the LOC. And I think the rookie running backs are going to come through for her. And I think if Thielen is definitely COVID free, she wins this one.
Yep, I agree. All right, let's take a look at some standings and some points for and see where everybody's at.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, while my
Sneaks up on you.
yeah, especially with my computer deciding if it doesn't want to load right now. I don't know what's going on there, but let's see if I actually can just switch over to Flex 13, or if I need to exit out. Oh, no, it's actually going to go to week 13. So, all right, cool. We should actually talk about those first, and we can go Joshua and the AK IT department at the LOC here versus me. I mean, we're both 3-8. What more can you say, really? Here, who really cares? It's not. Nobody cares for this matchup, honestly.
Remember, these games can change. So, but for that game, I think it's just 2 teams playing for pride. Whereas you can see this next one, if the projections fall the way they're supposed to, Orange Crush versus Bills Mafia could be for first place money, and it could also be for points for money, because I know those are the top 2 teams for points for. I hope this matchup happens. I mean, what a dream matchup, but Orange Crush has to get through likely losers first. Like I say, I think likely losers is going to win and ruin this dream matchup, but we'll see. I hope it happens.
I hope it happens too, because that means in both week flex week 13 matchups, you have 1 and 2 playing each other. If I win, obviously.
Yeah, this one here, again, Powers of Pain. This is based on him winning, I believe. I don't know if he's actually winning the projection, so I'd have to look at this one again. But I have him there, obviously, so there's got to be a reason why. No more likely losers. Again, this would be based on likely losers losing to Adrian. And then both teams would be 7-5 and essentially playing for their playoff lives. That's going to be a thriller next week if that happens. The Vlad Jr. crew and Zebras, again, this is based on, I think, Vlad losing and Susie winning, or maybe not, because I think it's a split, so Susie could still have a chance to go 2-1 versus Chris to win the division. So that could be for the division next week. That's going to be great. Illuminati Flaming Dragons, again, 2 teams is playing for pride. It would really just come down to, will we see the first 0-13 season if Robert loses this week? I kind of want to see it. I just, I want to see an 0-13 year. He'll never be able to live that down for the rest of his time in LOC.
Yeah.
Curly Lamborghini, that could be for the playoffs. If Curly Lamborghini, who's projected to beat, I think, Vlad Jr. crew, and Unnecessary Roughness is projected to win. Again, it would be Two matchups where Curly Lamborghini would be first Milan, and I looked at the points for, and that's how I determined the matchups at this point, and no more than likely losers. Those two games would be to see who makes the playoffs. When you're in, lose, you're done.
Yeah.
And then the last one would be, again, I've already got the division wrapped up. There's no point in me playing anyone difficult. That's why Ultimus Prime is there.
All right, and there we go. Now we can actually look at some points for and everything like that. So let's take a quick look. I mean, it's not as close as the LOC, but it's about what 58 point difference right here.
Yeah, it's pretty tight. Adrian's first in points for in LOC and Dynasty, so he's had a heck of a year. He's a heck of an owner. And I remember he was in tier 3 and he wasn't even I don't remember him being that great. And then he just finally, I think it's because teams dropped out and he made his way in, and then he's just taken off. So, I'm happy for the good ownership. I always like the competition for sure. Again, you could see Brian, sacrificing those quarterback points when he could have just dropped Jimmy G. I just don't think he was worth it. And he could have been near the top there too. And then Vlad Jr. crew, again, he was really great last year. He's having a heck of a year again this year. And I honestly thought my team was a couple of years out. So I'm surprised to see myself doing as well as I have this year, to be perfectly honest with you.
Yeah, I do.
But in Bill's Mafia, I think it could be a championship preview there.
I agree with you there. I do like how you won last week, but you dropped 2 spots.
Yeah, well, there you go. And that's the thing I'll say, just the end of the press conference, going back to the LOC. I do see a scenario in my head where there could be 6 teams tied at 8-5 to end the year. Two of those teams would be butt hurt because they're not going to be in playoffs based on whatever NFL.com says. So I think they're fighting for 4 spots, and if that happens, and I could be one of those 8-5 teams, and I could be out of the playoffs. I don't know what NFL.com does sometimes with these projections. It's wild and wacky, and it's going to be wild and wacky at the end of Flex 13, and, some people might be crying, but just be prepared for it. It could happen.
I could be one of those 8-5 teams, too.
Exactly. So, there's so much to be decided. I honestly can't wait to get to Flex 13, and then after Flex 13's over, I'm just going to be like, man, fantasy's almost over. This sucks. It's almost like the fantasy playoffs end. The real NFL playoffs are not as exciting as our fantasy playoffs. It's crazy.
Especially not this year. This year, it's been, like I think we said last week, it's been the closest since forever, honestly. It's just, I can't believe how crazy it is this year, how close everybody is. Even points for, in the LOC, you have people in the top 6. I think they're separated by 300 points, and that's one game, and that's your team scoring, overachieving a couple weeks versus even the bottom flex teams. Well, let's get rid of Ellie Island, all those people, but the 12th, 13th place teams, they're not that far behind in points for. But just looking at, actually, since I have Dynasty, you have Orange Crush who's scoring a shit ton of points, but his points for, he's closer to the bottom, I believe, in points for, if everyone wants to sort that way. Yeah, so yeah, he's third from bottom in points for, or points against.
Wow. And a lot of the top teams, you can see that there hasn't been much points against for the top teams.
Yeah.
So that's kind of interesting to see, because I know even in the LOC, I think Templars is one of the teams that has the most points against, which would contribute to his 1-10 record. So.
Yeah, it doesn't help that he scored 500 points less than unnecessary roughness. We're just looking right here, so it's a combination of 2 things here.
I'm telling you, let's hope we see the 0-13 season, because it will go down as the worst season in LA. I know it will. So hope he wins that crown. You know what? We almost need to get him a trophy for that. First owner.
Yeah.
All right, man. Well, good job with this press conference, you guys. I hope you're all excited for Week 12 and can't wait to see you all again for Week 13.
All right, talk to everybody later. Talk to you later, man. Happy Thanksgiving to everybody out there too.
Happy Thanksgiving, brother. All the best to you and your family.
You too, man. All right, I'll talk to you later. Bye.